Hello guys, I am Shashwat and welcome to my channel. In this video we are going to create a lighting setup, indoor lighting setup, something like this. So see you in the video. Alright, so let's start by double clicking the Godot engine and opening it up, and I'm going to click new to create a new project. And from here let me just rename it like light setup. Okay, and obviously you can name it anything you want. Now for the location, let me just go to my C drive, the drive where I have set it up, and I'll click create new folder. Okay, light setup is already there. Let me real time light setup. Now hit create. Okay, so the folder has been created. Now for the rendering compatibility, I will check forward plus because we are going to use a real-time light over here. Click on create and edit and allow some time for the Godot to load it up. Alright, so the engine has been loaded. So before we jump onto the website and download some assets for us, let me just quickly set it up some basic things. So for example, I'll set a folder called in-game assets, and it's a really nice idea to do some basic setup before you jump into do some things. So the next folder I will make scenes. Okay, so the in-game assets folder will be the folder where we will keep all our mesh, model, textures and HDRIs and so on and so forth. So in here also I'll create a new folder and let's name it mesh. So basically it will have our like contain all our mesh. So for now I think this setup is fine. Now for the scene, let me just quickly click on this node 3D and let's make it main, rename this to main world. Control S to save, and for the scenes I'm going to come over here and I'm going to type in main and Control S, just press once more just to make sure that the scene is saved. Now I'll press play once again, and now I know that there is nothing right now, but I just want to set this option that this scene should be my default scene whenever I open up my scene inside Godot. Alright, so our basic setup is done. Okay, now let's hop on to your browser and just type in Polyheaven. Okay, so you should see probably the first link. This is the website Polyheaven, and it is a very great awesome website to download HDRIs, textures, and a wide variety of models for free. All right, so the first thing that we are going to do here is click on browse HDRI because we want a sky for us, and the scene that we will be creating is basically an indoor scene. So I'll click on indoor because we want some indoor lighting, and let's see what we can do over here. I feel like all right, I feel this looks fine to me. So click on this, and for the texture size I feel like 2K is fine. Select HDR from here and click on the download. So that will start downloading. Now our HDRI is done. Now we need a model, right? So click on Polyheaven once more to go to the home page. Now here click on browse models, and we want some basic interior setup where we want some sofa, some plant, and a chair and a center table. That's all we want, right? So I'm going to the furniture section, and from here I'll select seating because we want some seating things. So let's say, okay, I like this. So over here let me select 2K, and from here we will use GLTF because we want a very simple setup where we just drag and drop our models along with all the textures. So with the GLTF format, all the textures necessary settings will come up with the model itself. So the sofa has been downloaded. Now let's download yeah, I feel this chair is fine. Let's download this again at 2K GLTF. Okay, Then we go back, and what we want now is basically a center table. So let's click on the table option and let's see what we can get. Okay, I feel this is fine. So let's click over here again, same settings, GLTF, 2K textures. Okay, so now we want some plantation. Okay, so we'll go to the nature section, and from here we will select plotted plants because we want some indoor plants. So right now we have these three options, and I feel like this is fine for us. Again, same settings, 2K texture, GLTF, click on download, and just wait for the download to happen. Okay, now that the download is done, all I have to do is select everything, press Ctrl X, and basically I am going to shift this all to my here. Sorry, I came over here, mesh, and Ctrl V to paste it. Okay, now I know this I have created here, so let's just click and create HDRI. Okay, and just make sure that you paste this HDRI over here. Okay, now inside mesh we have all the mesh, so now start extracting it. Alright, so all our files has been extracted. I'll press Shift delete to delete that. Now for this one is we have this as a center table, so I'll just rename this to center table. Okay, this is the chair, so I'll rename chair. This is the plant, so I'll again rename this to plant, or else you can do a shortcut, F2. So just press F2 on a folder name and you'll have this renaming on the Windows machine. So now I have renamed everything, and let's just switch back to Godot for us for the engine to process all the elements that we have added. So you will see that the HDRI folder is created and we have the HDRI here. Alright, so we have the table over here, and by looking at the textures, I think yeah, that has been added successfully. Now for now I will delete all these. Okay, I have this clear empty scene. So the first thing that I will do is basically set up a ground and a wall for our elements to be there. So let's do that. From the menu we will select CSG mesh 3D because this is the 3D mesh, and for the name let's just name it to ground, and you guessed it, the ground will be basically a plane. So I am going to select new plane mesh. Okay, now for the transform, let's unselect this chain to break the link, and for the X I will set it to 10, and for the Z I'll set it to somewhere around 5. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, so if you come over here, you can see this is the front orthographic, and now we know that I need a wall from starting from here to here. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll select this, I'll press Ctrl D to duplicate it. Okay, then I'll choose this red axis, and then I'll press and hold Ctrl key in order to make sure that it snaps in the rotation angle. Okay, now press F2 again to rename it, and let's rename this to wall. Okay, now I'll press and hold the Control key again in order to make it shift to this side, then press the Control key again to perfectly snap it along with the edges of the ground. Okay, so our wall and ground mesh are all set up. Now it's time to finally add our downloaded mesh. So let's just start with the sofa. So I'm going to drag and drop this sofa right now and press F2. Let's just rename it. Although it is not like really necessary to rename everything, but I prefer it to keep the scene names and everything cleaned up. So now I will set up my sofa like this, and using the top axis I'm aligning it to the grid center line, because this is going to help me to place other things in symmetry. Okay, so now let us place this chair. Let me just bring it over here, and like the same thing, let's make it chair. Okay, and in the y-axis I'm going to rotate it by holding down the control key. Okay, and let's just bring it over here, go to the top menu again, top view, sorry, and let's just bring it somewhere like let's just actually bring it in the center of this grid line. Okay, now I'll select this, I'll press Ctrl D to duplicate this, and over here I'll bring it like this, and by holding down the control I'll rotate it in the opposite direction. Okay, so this thing is set up. Now finally we are going to add our center table. Let's just rename this to center table. Okay, now go again back to the top view and bring it somewhere like closer to the main sofa. Okay, now this thing is done. Let's add our plant over here. So let's bring in the plant and again rename it to plant. Okay, renaming is totally optional, it's up to you, but keeping an organized name really helps. If your scene is a lot bigger and all, it will really help to make things organized. So next is here I'm going to place it. Yeah, that's fine. So just press Ctrl S, and now our scene is all set up. Okay, now if I press play, I can see nothing basically, and that's why, because we have not added any camera. So let's do that. Let's add in a camera 3D. Okay, and now if I just randomly place it, try to make it in the view, I have to basically every time go over here. So one good thing that we can do is basically split the viewports, and with our camera being selected in the second or in the first viewport, we can actually turn on this preview mode in order to see what our camera is able to see, and in one of the plane we can actually go ahead and set things up. So let's just rotate it a little bit, something like this, and let's just add it something like that. And yeah, and this green border is basically showing what your camera can see, right, by maintaining the aspect ratio. So now hit play, and now I am able to see all my furnitures and everything. Now there is one problem, I'm not able to see my ground and the wall. Now the reason why, because the Godot is by default showing our entire scene in the you can say dummy lighting setup. Okay, so this is just for the reference purpose. So from here, if I toggle my sunlight preview and environment preview off, so you can see, since I don't have any lighting going on inside my scene, so everything is looking very flat. Okay, so let's just fix that by adding an HDRI to our environment. Okay, so before we do that, I just want to go ahead and create a default environment configuration file for us to make some tweaks and edits in there. So let's just go ahead and create a new folder, and we'll call this environment. Okay, now here create new and go to the resource. So here what we are going to create is basically we are going to create an environment file which is used by Godot. Okay, and that environment file it contains all the overall HDRI lighting, fog, any post-processing effects like that. Okay, it is going to hold all those information, right? So I'm just going to type environment, and here we have this environment resource. Press enter, and from here I'm going to rename this as default environment, since right now we are just going to use one environment. So just a quick tip, that if you are building a game where you have in one scene one lighting setup, in another scene some other lighting setup, so having a different environments files really makes it very easier to change it in the runtime using either code or something else. Okay, so just a quick note on that. Now let's just add our HDRI in the environment. So double click on the default environment and right in the inspector on the right side, you are going to we have to click on the background, and here right now we can see it is a clear color. So we don't want clear color, we want a sky. Okay, so I'm going to click on sky. Now we get this sky menu. From here I will tell Godot that okay, I want a new sky if I don't have any already sky setup going on. So since I don't have it, I'll click the new sky. Now I just have to click once more on this sky in order to open its property. Now for the sky material, this is very important because here if we are going to use an HDRI, which is basically already lighting setup, everything is there captured in the image that is in HDRI. So if we are going to use that, we have to click on panorama sky material, or else if we have to use the dynamic inbuilt procedural sky thing, then we have to click on the procedural sky material. Okay, for now we will choose panorama. Okay, now click once on the panorama in order to open its setup menu, and here we are going to drag and drop our downloaded HDRI. So just drag it something like this and drop it over here, and give some time for Godot to process that image, because right now the image has downloaded and it's there inside Godot, but as we connect it, so it is going to link that file and generate the basic lighting condition. But now the problem still persists. If I press Ctrl S to save my scene, first problem, I'm not able to see any lighting going on inside my scene. Next problem, if I hit play, again my scene is flat, so I basically don't see anything. Now the reason is because we have configured our environment file, but we have not told Godot yet to use this file. Alright, so how we are going to do this? Very easy. Click on the project settings. Okay, come over here inside environment, and right now you can see this just this default clear color. Okay, and if I press this, I can choose any clear color that we have, but we don't want this, right? We want the environment, that HDRI that we have used. So by default all the advanced settings are hidden in the new Godot 4x version. Okay, so what you can do is click here in the advanced settings, enable this checkbox. Okay, and now if you scroll all the way down, you will see this default environment box, which is currently empty. So basically this is the default environment file that we can specify that whenever our game runs in the editor or in the build, so Godot will load this environment file by default if we specify it. So let's just do that. I'll go to the in-game assets, and from here click on the environment and select our default environment, and as you clicked it, and right now you can see that our HDRI is loaded. Press Ctrl S to save our scene, hit play, and now you can see everything has light up, and still we can see some issues. Right, it's all bright, and the walls are almost looking very flat. So what I feel like, it's let's do one thing. Let's add a float texture to our ground, since it is looking quite flat, right? So we'll again go back to Polyheaven, the favorite website. Now this time I'll click on textures, and let's find some textures for the floor. So let's go ahead, and we want something for indoor, so I'll click on indoor, and for the floor, let's okay, I feel this is fine, so let's do that. Let's select 2K again, and for the type, this time I'm going to download the zip file. I don't want the GLTF. Basically ambient occlusion I don't want, AO rough metal yes, that I want, diffuse map I want, normal I don't want, GL normal GL, I want this GL because we are using OpenGL rendering, so we want the GL version, not the DX. DX is for DirectX, so we don't want that. And for the roughness, we want, again, yes, we want the JPG version. So our configuration is now been set up. Let's download. So I've created a new folder called textures. Let's just paste it over here, and now I'm going to extract the files, and let's just rename this to floor textures, and then I'm going to press Shift Delete to delete the previous ones. So yeah, so now what I'm going to do is press Ctrl X and bring all the textures here inside this and delete the textures. We don't want unnecessary folders going on. So now give it some time, and our beautiful engine has imported all the files. Now how do we apply these textures? Well, obviously by creating a material. So again, we are going to create a new folder called materials. Okay, all right, so we have created a new folder called materials. Let's create a new resource. So basically every in-game asset that you create inside the engine, that is a resource. So that's why we have to click on the resource, and in the resource you can click, we can choose this many type of resources. They are all different. Okay, in this case we have to create a material, so I'll just type in material, and we have to select standard material 3D. So this is basically a normal PBR, physically based rendered rendering material that we have to create. So hit enter and make sure that we are in the right folder structure. So right now I'm in the correct folder structure. Let us draw here, give it a name, floor_mat. Now I use this postfix just to search quickly _mat. If I do, I'll get the list of all the materials. So that's why that's how I do it. You can do it your own way. Now our material has been created. Let's just assign this material by dragging and dropping it onto the floor mesh. Okay, press Ctrl S to save. Now it is linked. Our material is now linked to the floor. How? We can check it from here. Select this and you can see our this thing is all done. Now I want to use texture, so I'll change the color value all to 1. Okay, and we are going to now start using the flow texture. I'll just drag it and drop it in the color panel, so we get this nice texture. Okay, now for the roughness we are going to let me just expand it a little bit. So we have this roughness map. We are going to drag and drop it over here. So now we get this nice shine. All right, perfect. So next is we want some normal map, because right now all the texture is looking completely flat. So let's add enable normal map, and from here just drag and drop your normal map over here. So right away you will see, if you notice it closely, you can see that we are now getting some nice details going on into our texture. So our floor has roughly started looking like a floor. Okay, press Ctrl S, press play in order to see. And this is one good idea. Whenever you are doing some setup, you just always keep playing it in order to see how it is coming all together. And right now I'm quite impressed. Okay, all right, so let's close it up. Now our wall has some issue because it's quite flat white, so I don't want that. So let's create a new material for our shiny wall. So let's go to the resource again. This time select standard material 3D, and from here just type it wall again _mat, and drag and drop this onto the wall. Press Ctrl S to save it. Double click on the material, go to the albedo, and this time I just want to set a flat color. Let's just set it something like this. Make it a little dark, something like this, and let's just press Ctrl S and yeah, okay, fine. Now coming to the indoor lighting, see right now our like we are using the HDRI and that is fine, but you know, the intensity is too much because I want to set up some backdrop lights, you know, in order to make that effect right now. So right now I feel like, and also I feel one thing, this sofa, I think this is too short. Okay, so what we are going to do, let's just make it bigger because it's a sofa, for God's sakes. Yeah, and let's just see. Yeah, it's in the center. Yeah, that's better. Okay, just see once more. Yeah, everything now looks fine. I feel like I need to little bit bring closer the camera, and yeah, this looks much fine. All right, so now that we have done our basic setup, it's now time to start tweaking the lights and play with the lighting in order to achieve the scene that we wanted. So I'll just double click on default environment, and here we have under the sky mode we have something called energy multiplier, and this is basically the energy that your the light is getting emitted from this HDRI. So I want to reduce this by okay, let's just reduce this by let's say 0.7, okay, because I will add some more lighting inside this. And also there is one setting that we have, and that is the process mode. Okay, since we are going to use some real-time lighting and we are just going to do some rendering, so I want to switch the process mode to real time. Okay, and right away you'll see that the lighting is now dim. Okay, now for the radiance size, let's just use a 1K size for the radiance, and basically it is going to read the light information better. Okay, now if I want we can adjust some lighting settings, so let's just a little bit add it, something like, yeah, that's look fine. Now for the tone map I prefer filmic. Okay, and let's just enable the ambient occlusion as well, and for the radius let's just set it to 0.8 and increase the intensity something like this, and the ambient occlusion really brings the life inside the scene. Press Ctrl S and keep this habit, always keep press Ctrl S in order to save your progress, otherwise sometimes it's a software after all, anything can happen. All right, so now our environment is set up. Now we want to add a few more things, so let me just add a node 3D, okay, real quick, and we are going to rename this to lights. Okay, because below this we will be adding some extra lights. Now it is not necessary to create this node, but just for the keeping our scene hierarchy clean, I'm doing that. So now I'll search for the light, and here we have three options: directional, omni, and spotlight. So right now let's add a directional light. So it is as the name suggests, it is going to add a light in the direction. So let's just do it something like this, and let's just rotate it something like that a little bit. And now let's enable the shadow first of all. So now our shadow has been enabled, and I feel like it has to be something like this. Okay, so I don't want the, yeah, I feel this is fine. And for the energy, let's keep it to 0.8. okay, now for the bake mode we are keeping it in the dynamic. Let's just see, Okay, orthogonal if I see, no, let's just keep it at the default settings. Okay, now we can hit play and we can see already our scene is now, it's looking good. All right, so now let's add a backdrop light. Okay, so how we are going to do this is basically add in a spotlight, okay, like this, and let's just bring it all over here, just making sure it's over here. Add it something like this and then rotate it in the upwards direction, because we ultimately want the background to emit a light in order to get that effect. Now in the spotlight we get this two red buttons. One is just in the 90-degree section of the light, so this is basically controlling the range. So I think the default range is fine. I want to expand the angle, spotlight angle, so I'm going to select this red button and going to click and drag in order to expand this, and I feel this looks fine already. Now let's just come to the light and let's add in a color variation. First let's do one thing, crank up the light strength all the way up to 16. I feel 18 would work. Okay, now we can start playing with the color. So me add in a color which kind of, yeah, this looks fine to me. Okay, already we are there almost. So we are getting this light, and now what I want is to basically the area to be expanded from the left and right side. So what we can do right now is basically press Ctrl D in order to duplicate it, and we are going to go to the transform and just bring it over here. Now why I'm using transform is basically I will have a definite value which I can replicate it on the other opposite side. So I'll press Ctrl D once again, and over the transform let's just make it to positive 1.5. Press Ctrl S and hit play once again, and yeah, we are pretty much close to what we want. Now there is one problem, that you can see the sofa and the chair, the edges are very jaggy. Alright, and this is because by default, to save the processing power, Godot disables the anti-aliasing. So that is what we are going to enable now. So hit go to the project, click on project settings, okay, and you need to come down to the global illumination tab first, and just makes this voxel cone to high, set this to high. Okay, then go to the anti-aliasing setting, and from here see this MSA A3D is disabled, so we have to check this to 8x, or else I personally prefer 4x, because 4x and 8x doesn't make that much of a difference, so I feel this is fine. And screen space AA, turn this on, anti-aliasing. Okay, press Ctrl S to save, and now when you hit play, so now you'll see we are getting much more crisp and better quality. Alright, so now it's really the time to do some final setup and final tweakings on the value in order to achieve much more realistic effect. So first thing first, let's go to our environment again, and from here enable SDFGI. This is basically the rendering system, which an advanced rendering system where we can get the much more nice effect. Set the cascades to 8, okay, and it really boosts up the visual quality. And let's just decrease the energy down to 0.9. That's fine. Now for the adjustments, enable the adjustments. Okay, and here we can play with the saturation. So right now it's set to 1 and I feel 1.2 would do, or else let's just make it 1.1. For the contrast, let's just add a little bit of more contrast, 1.3. Okay, it's too much, 1.2. And for the brightness, again same thing, you can play around like this. And yeah, and based on your lighting's preference and settings, you can do much more things. And press Ctrl S and hit on play, and there we go. We have a really nice setup scene inside the Godot engine. So I hope you liked my video, and if you really like it, hit that subscribe button and hit the like button. And if you have any doubt following along, please feel free to add your doubts in the comment section. So see you in the next one. Goodbye.